but who we are is the Nassau County Youth Council. And I circled the youth because we were a part of Nassau County government, and they realized with everything going on that young people, we are active, engaged, we're loud and proud, and we really want to make an impact, and we are new to the table, but that doesn't mean that we aren't valid enough to make a statement and be a part of, you know, be a part of the world. So that's who we are, the Nassau County Youth Council, and our goal is to, wow, this messed up, but our goal is to be the voice of young people in Nassau County, Long Island, and to make policy proposals to our government. And we recently made policy suggestions for the New York State government, such as a state-mandated civics education course, which basically mandates everyone learns about civics. So this presentation, you would learn about this in high school, and you'd be ready to vote, ready for so many things. And we also wanted a state-mandated sex education course, because we realized that a majority of sexual harassment does occur to high schoolers, and it occurs to them in their jobs, and it's really sad. And some people, like, I almost thought it was normal, but it really shouldn't be. So just a formal education about consent and so many important topics. Also, if you just came in, put your name, your age, and your town. Sorry about this being messed up for some reason. And this is our current group. So we are a group of, we're more than 9. Not all of us are in our picture there, but us presenting today is about 11 of us, and this is our current group, and that is our Instagram. Aiden's gonna drop our Instagram in the chat. Take out your phone right now and follow us. And then if you haven't followed us, okay? And in the chat, say you are done if you haven't followed us. Yes. Do that. And I'm only gonna move on if I see some dones over here. Awesome, you followed last week. I like this. We're still building up our coalition, but we're really making our impact. Okay, I see a lot of dones. I think we're gonna get started. I trust you guys. Our event, our forum is about digital activism and civic literacy, and that's why we called it Making a Difference in COVID-19, because we're in such a crazy predicament. That's why we're on Zoom right now, but we're making the most of it right now. We want to show you guys how to make the most of it on digital platforms, and also how to receive information on digital platforms that's balanced and accurate and fair. It's incredibly important, especially before the election. And why we want to focus on it is that it is a concentrated force for young people. 48% of people from 18 to 29 get their news from social media. And the introduction of news on the internet and social media has made it accessible to young people, even though it might not have been before, because the newspapers and back then. And I just want to show a first example of, oh my gosh, yes. So these are 2 examples. I don't know why they're in weird spots, but basically these are 2 examples of news headlines that has come up. We're going to talk about it later. I think it's best that we talk about this later. But what I was saying about the concentrated force of social media is, how do we know that it's accurate? News through social media is consistently unfact-checked. And on a public platform, anybody like you and me has an incredible amount of accessibility to promote and spread a message, regardless of what it is, with the availabilities of their tools and services. And its motivation is often to take money off of your attention. And the appeal most of the time is that it's new information. That's why I said novel information, because no one has ever heard of it before. Like, if I said, I don't know, like I just saw like man, I can't, no, if I saw like, this is a bad example, but like a rat just have wings. You guys could say your reaction in the chat, very stupid, but then people would be like, whoa, I've never heard that before. I kind of want to believe it. And that could get pretty serious, but it's the whole idea that I can just say whatever I want on social media and present myself as real, and then boom, it looks real, and there's no way to tell. And that's why I have this triangle, because it is the like social media fake news triangle, and it basically says that it needs those three things to make fake news, because you need social media networks who have the platform, and also they sell our data to other companies via advertisements. And it comes to a point where we're not just consumers, we're the product. And that leads to dehumanization and not taking us seriously as human beings. So if they're willing to give us false information and they have algorithms to do that, that's a necessity. Also, the tools and services, like I said, easy to do. And lastly, the motivation, people want to take money off of you. So that is an example of what can happen. And not only it's easy to have fake news, it spreads 6 times faster. This one shocked me. On Twitter, false news spreads 6 times faster than true news. I need to hear your reactions in the chat, because this is not just about anything, this is about a lot of things. And in addition, false news stories are 70% more likely to be retweeted than true news stories are. So like I said, they're going to be retweeted, they're going to be shared more, and it's going to be spread. And another way of spreading, I screenshot my search bar for Google what climate change is. And because of where I am, most of this stuff is just like, it's caused by, it's a challenge, it's real. But then we look at the bottom and it's like, climate change is good. Climate change is not caused by humans. And that's not 100% accurate. And what I found out from a documentary is that with autocomplete answers, they vary by state. So in some states, it won't say climate change is real. It may say climate change is a hoax as the first option. It may say climate change is fake as the very first option. And psychologically, that makes you think, oh, wow, it must be real. It's all the way at the top. Most people are talking about it. And it's just another example of how easy you can be manipulated by these sites. So that's mass misinformation. And a quote from that study by MIT, this one was striking. We found that falsehood diffuses significantly farther, faster, deeper, and more broadly than the truth in all categories of information, and in many cases by an order of magnitude. Like, if you hear that, that sounds like a huge deal, right? And, oh my gosh, yes, my screen, okay. It sounds like a huge deal. And as of now, it just shows you that it's so big that there is a magnitude of how much false information there is, and it's in all categories, not just in tabloids or celebrities anymore, it's in the news, and it's serious, important information. And that's why I segue to where it can be fatal. False information about COVID-19 is now considered by medical experts as a public health risk. And I just want to show you guys our something I pulled from another website, and they compared people who get their information from like a new TV news show to Twitter. And they found that people from Twitter is more likely to believe conspiracy theories than someone who's watching the news. They're more likely to believe that you get COVID by consuming a bat. Like, can I just hear in the chat how, like, that does not make sense, right? That does not make sense. And they're also saying that you're more likely, they're saying that COVID-19 is no worse than the flu, which is inaccurate as well. And they're also saying that vitamin C will stop it, which is wrong as well. And the problem with this misinformation is that it's linked with compliance. So not only are they getting wrong information, it makes them stop practicing the only resistance that we really have to this deadly virus. And a part of that is, like I said over here, hygiene. They're less likely to wash their hands, way less likely actually from Twitter to wash their hands for COVID They are also less likely to social distance. This was by a lot. Look, a lot of these over here are by percentages, but if you look at social distancing, it is by a measure of 30%, over 30% to less than like 10%, which is really, really bad. And especially for a deadly virus, and that's what the Harvard Kennedy School found. But I want to talk about why does this happen? Why? It's because we have become victims of targeted information. Amongst our recommended sections, autocomplete, advertisements, we initially used to manipulate our brains to increase screen time, like I said, by social media websites. They now have a very bad effect. And that effect is that we get a circular feedback loop of information. People, I've heard it been called this echo chamber of social media, but I'm calling it a circular feedback loop because you're only hearing your own opinions. And when you're surrounded by a bunch of people in your social media group with recommendeds, and you see ads confirming your ideas, you see, if you even search it up, you see other people believing the same thing as you do, you're going to be not only think your opinion is right, but you're going to think, wow, I have so many people agreeing with me. And a lot of times people do not get presented the same news, and that is the reality. We are simply not being presented the same news as everyone else. But how can we ever agree if we don't even have a collective understanding of reality? And for me, this kind of shapes what I see with the polarization today, how some people say these things. I'm like, how could you ever say that? That's so unbelievably untrue. But they don't even see the other side. They don't understand the other perspective because they're simply not being presented it by these resources and websites. And they have no concept of that. And when there's no concept of a collective idea of something, it can be very detrimental. And I have an extreme example of ad targeting from Facebook. Facebook, I know young people don't use Facebook, but let me tell you, Facebook for adults, what a force. Like, and ProPublica, they did this experiment. They put out a safe ad, but they tested it under the demographics of something very anti-Semitic, basically, and their target was the Nazi Party, which is horrible. But they're able to put other tags underneath their ad to develop influence. So it's not only the Nazi Party. They found this word that these things I don't really want to say, horrible things. This is actually code word for Nazi Party, and it's still on Facebook right now. And they found that their potential audience was 100,000 people. That's right. Like, Facebook has hundreds of thousands of people a part of the group Nazi Party. And that just goes to show that people with social media consolidate and they meet other people who believe like them. And not only that, this website was also recommended other things. So for example, if you're noted as having a conspiracy tendency, then if you're a climate change denier, they'll set you up with things like being an anti-vaxxer. They'll set you up with things that also go along with that category. If you're a part of the Nazi Party, they'll set you up with things that are anti-feminist or probably racist and a lot of other things. So it just takes one thing and it multiplies, and it makes them disbelieve a lot of whole things. And this is very dangerous. And that's why I just wanted you guys to be aware. And it's sad, but how can we combat it? It's number one, by assessing and fact-checking. Have you heard this info somewhere else? I always think about that. And what is the validity of the website? For me, the other day I saw a website and there was a million ads. When there's a million ads, they're probably trying to take your money off you. That's number one. And you also see websites that say very sketchy things. I was on a website and it told you reliable reporting, but then it said the right opinion. Why would a news outlet, they were called the Washington Times, why would a news outlet tell you they're giving you an opinion And secondly, why would they tell you that there is a right opinion, and why would they tell you that their opinion is right? These are things like, there's code words that we always have to pay attention to. And another aspect that we have to do is look beyond your echo chamber. Follow people you may not agree with. Also follow people that you may not agree with that are more reasonable. But you can hear from a side that you realize is not as reasonable. And what you do with that is that you try to understand, and you step into their shoes, and you realize why they think that way and why you can change what they think. But there are also people who are reasonable and who think differently, and just understanding that and taking that step is very important. And what it does is it qualifies your opinions, which is the last one. Put yourself in the perspective of other sides and try to make sense of what you may really just don't understand about someone else. With someone I fundamentally disagree with, I try to do that, and it's not, and there's always a middle ground. I'm not saying you have to compromise your beliefs, but always keep them open, and always have core beliefs that you follow, and always think of others and how they might think, because, we're all humans. And just to be more specific, fact checking and making sure it's accurate. Context, context, context. There are a million stats and resources I've heard a lot of people say that were absolutely out of context. I think the other day, Dr. Fauci's, one thing he said was taken out of context. And that's why you always have to go back to the original source, which is another thing we're going to talk about, but also think, where and when was this information shared? Someone reposted this video of like a horrible thing of like this kid being beat up by a cop, and it was right in the height of George Floyd and all those things, and I was like, wow, this is horrible. And then I went back, I saw the website, and people were reacting, and then I realized that this was like 6 years prior in an entire different country. And I'm not saying that what it wasn't wrong, but obviously the person who posted it tried to capitalize on the moment and didn't clarify important information. And that's why I'm saying, are those factors relevant to the claim? And another important thing is peer reviewing, especially in the age of COVID-19. Scientific sources have to be peer reviewed, which is basically evaluating scientific work by others who work in the same field. So having other scientists researching things that are very important, because people are going to say a lot about COVID. There's a lot of stuff that they can say, and they can say they've done research, and then you could be like, oh, but they've done research, but then how many other people have done research to prove that claim? And that's why when someone puts those facts in an article, always, you can check the footnotes or something, but if you want to make sure, go back to the original source and check on the homepage, because it should say if it was peer reviewed. And if it doesn't, that's a sign. Also, what I was saying about out of context is back checking images. Sites may attach a photo to an article to ensue something that's inaccurate, make something look more dramatic than it is, less dramatic, make their face look super distorted, and it shapes the context of what they're actually saying. And that's why it's important. If you feel like it's fishy, just literally drag the image and put it in the Google search bar and see if it is true and if it's lined up. Very important. And another thing that you want to be cognizant of is a good thing that to remember when you're reading stuff is emotional manipulation. Fake news is almost always content that evokes strong emotions and passions of the people. Like I said before, they took advantage of something that a lot of people felt passionately about, and that is going to make you want to believe it more, and that's how they're going to get you. So it's always important to remember. And now Grant is going to be introducing some great trusted web sources that we can use to just ensure that, just to put it out there, just so you guys have some concrete ideas of what you guys can look at.
Okay, so some trusted web sources are factcheck.org, politifact.com, snopes.com, and politico.com. Some trusted social media sources on Instagram is CNN Politics, Politico, so_politic now simplified, and NPR Politics.
Yep. So great sites, especially NPR is great because it's public news. PolitiFact, Politico is known for being the center, and that's what we're going to get into, which is election information. So staying informed about the election. I know we talked about election information online, and we gave you a lot of information about just how you can be manipulated, but it's essential to know that so you can find the right resources. Take what we showed you and apply it to election information, because it's very difficult to avoid this spreading to politics, especially when we have our own officials partaking in it. And that's why you should seek the above resources, which are very important, and consider, like I said before, consider all sides of a certain candidate, good and bad, and do balanced research to assess for yourself rather than someone else. Like, look up a candidate's history from not only one side, but another, from a more central side. Understand it's their whole body of work before you can judge them for one thing. I think sometimes people judge candidates for one thing, but think about the whole picture and whether you agree with it or not. But that was a little bit doom and gloom. You know, obviously, it is very difficult with social media nowadays. That and it manipulates a lot of us, and it's very difficult. But you always have to be cognizant. But we can use this, and I want you guys to know that we can use this to our advantage, and we can use this for our own power. Sophia.
Okay, great. So I'm going to be talking to you guys about how we as youth can use social media, apps, Facebook, Instagram, things like that, digital and social apps for activism. So I want to ask you guys a question. What's the first thing that you think about when I say the word petition? Put it in the chat. Feel free to, do digital petitions or physical petitions. What's the first thing you think of? Change, paper petition, signatures. Yes, lots of signatures. Change.org. Okay. Physical petitions. Seeing a lot of change.org. Yeah. Yeah, I think change.org is a really popular petition platform for our generation. So amendments. Okay. Yeah, these are all great contributions. So our First Amendment right, part of our First Amendment right is the right to petition our government for redress of grievances. So we have the right to go to our government officials and say, hey, we have this problem. We want you to hear about our problem, and we want you to do something about it. So petitions are a great way, or a traditional way, to publicly protest. I mean, a lot of you mentioned that you've seen like physical paper petitions that you can sign, maybe something that's passed around school to advocate for like better lunches or something like that. But there's also digital petitions like change.org and other sites. So digital and online petitions definitely have more outreach than a physical paper petition, because you can just, share a link to a petition and it could go to hundreds of thousands of people, rather than like a paper that you can give to maybe 100 people in your school or something like that. So yeah, digital petitions are definitely helpful in this day and age. And again, if you're looking to speak to your representative, you have a right to be heard. So if you can create a petition or a letter writing campaign, you can email your representatives and tell them, hey, we want you to address this issue. We want you to fight for our rights and do it well. So sharing and creating content. I'm sure many of you have probably seen digital activism posts on Instagram, and online activism can be seen on many platforms. So Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, and we'll go in depth about some of these apps a little bit more later, but these are all places where people can express their opinions, share content with others, and highlight different creators. So what we need to be careful about, as was mentioned earlier in the presentation, is falsehoods, fake news, or bias. So we need to learn how to distinguish between hard facts and bias. If you're a content creator, then you need to make sure that your work is original. if it was inspired by someone else, if it's similar to someone else's work, you need to credit someone else, that someone else. And if you're writing an opinion piece, you need to state that. This is your opinion. Also, you should provide other resources for your content consumers to explore the topic further. So say you're talking about COVID-19 and you're just talking about some of the basic facts, but you can't really include all of it. You want to show your consumers, your content consumers, where you got your information from, kind of like a bibliography, but yeah, it's for the benefit of everyone if you share these helpful links, helpful resources, things like that. Next, we can talk about donating and selling apparel. Digital advocacy can mean donating to good causes, donating to activist groups that have similar beliefs that align with yours. You need to make sure that when you're donating to such causes that you research where that money is going. I mean, a lot of you brought up change.org, and it's a great site to create petitions, but when you actually donate money to them, a lot of that money doesn't go to the intended place. It goes to their executives, and it's not used for the purpose that you think it's being used for. So when you're donating, you need to make sure that you agree with this organization, that you know where your money is going, and that the organization itself is transparent. And the second part here is selling apparel. So you can create, piece of artwork, and the proceeds of that artwork will be going to a certain organization or cause. And again, you're in the position now where you need to be transparent. So make sure that all your ideas are your own, research, and share where you got your information. Okay, thank you.
Okay. So there are various social media platforms you can advocate and express your beliefs on, which includes TikTok. If you look to the picture on the bottom left, you'll see supporters of the Black Lives Matter movement marching the streets in order to support their cause, which is to protest against all racially motivated acts of violence towards the African American community. If you look to the picture on the top right, you see people advocating for others to wear their masks in order to save lives due to the COVID-19 pandemic crisis. If you look to the bottom right, you'll see the issue of pollution, where many TikTokers are advocating for certain policies to be mandated in order to save our ocean. Many people go to various platforms, including TikTok, in order to get their message across. And that's right, TikTok is a great platform for advocacy because it's a trending app. So many people go on it, like content related to what they enjoy. So this is one of the many ways that you can express your message through social media.
So we've talked about a few social media platforms today, including TikTok, and we've mentioned Twitter. And today I'm going to talk about how we can use Facebook and Instagram to advocate. So on Facebook, they have these really cool things called Facebook groups. And basically, it's a great way that you can organize and advocate, and it's really easy to create. In Facebook groups, they have this thing called Facebook Workplace. So basically, companies and organizations can have an internal workplace where they can share information and do Facebook Lives and such. So my mom works for Viacom, and through Facebook Workplace, they had an inclusion week, and they spread information about introducing minorities and dismantling systemic racism and stuff like that. As I mentioned, Facebook offers Facebook Live, which is a great way for government to get involved and share their information, and it has easy access for everyone. And Facebook accesses an older age demographic, as Nicolette mentioned earlier. So though people that are in our age demographic don't really use it, it's still important for us to share information the best we can on that platform, because we want to keep the older people educated in every way that we can. Instagram has things, as most people know, called infographics. And though there can be some issues with infographics that you need to keep in mind, infographics can often oversimplify really large issues and also westernize really large issues and put a kind of like savior effect on issues that have been going on for a long period of time. So always make sure to fact check. But they can also be a great way to spread information and get young people involved or pique their interest in a big issue that they want to get more educated about. Another good thing that Instagram has, as you all know, is hashtags. And the ability to use hashtags on Instagram is great because you can click on a hashtag and access a bunch of information, a plethora of information on that topic. So for example, after the shooting of George Floyd, the Black Lives Matter movement hashtag was everywhere. And when you click on that hashtag, you could access tons and tons of slide infographics and information, protest information, petition information, and things that had already been fact-checked and reviewed for you to see. And they also gives you a quick access to these things called master docs that also already have information that has been read through and fact-checked. So just Facebook and Instagram allow you to just have a different form of access to information in a better way that we can advocate through them. Just keep in mind to always fact check everything you read on the internet.
Hi everyone, my name is Pradiksha Malayo. Today I'm going to be talking to you guys about spreading influence and how you can do so over social media. So I have some experience doing outreach and things with some organizations. So I have some experience on how to spread influence and how to get your message out there. So one main way, as talked about before, is tags and hashtags. So tagging people and putting hashtags on your posts is one way to increase your reach to new people who may not follow you. So you already have your follower base who is interested in what you put out. But once you put hashtags and tag people, it gets people who are interested in the same things as you are and draws the same audience that can increase your reach and following. Number 2 is answering questions immediately. So you have to keep in mind when posting on social media that not everyone is as educated or as active as you. And they might be lacking on some subjects and they'll want some clarification. One way to keep people engaged with your content is answering their questions immediately. So once you see that DM pop up on your phone, it's always best to reply to it as soon as you can and reply with a thorough response. If you feel like you're not educated enough to give a thorough response, that you can always redirect them to a post, a website, or another reliable source. Interacting with followers, that also ties in with the last topic. Interacting with followers, again, boosts engagement and creates an active following base. You'll usually see accounts with such big following bases, but a lot of the times they may not be active, especially if their content, if you see like the follower ratio is not that good, or the comment ratio or something. So in order to keep your following base active, you need to make sure that they're a part of your content. So you can create Instagram polls that they can choose which content they want to see. You can always encourage them to DM you. And so, yeah, Nicolette, you're going to spread your influence right now. That sounds good. But yeah, this is basically just 3 ways on how you can spread your influence. But of course, there are many other ways that you can spread your influence.
Okay, so now we're going to talk about campaigns and themes and how to take advantage of the tools available. This includes social media channels, as mentioned before, which includes Facebook, Instagram, and many other platforms. And you want to have an attractive and attention-grabbing aesthetic so that people pay attention to it. In addition, statistics are very important. In regards to certain demographics and target audiences, you definitely want to keep in mind certain statistics and information about your audience, which then brings us to tailor-made recommendations towards a certain audience that you're trying to attract to, and inform.
All right, so that was our presentation, and we wanted to bring two great examples and representatives who are doing in real time what we were talking about the whole time, and both are teens who have shared their voices through digital platforms, and they've amassed great success. So I want to give you guys a warm welcome to Michael Schumo, which is a TikTok influencer. To get it right, I think he has 127,000 followers on Instagram. He has 1.2 million likes, sorry, on TikTok, yes, 1.2 million likes on TikTok, and he posts a lot about to spread awareness about a lot of political things and a lot of things happening around the world and in America. And we have Yessie, which is the social media director of Why Vote, which is also a fantastic youth-run New York City youth organization about youths not only in voting but civic engagement. They've done great things. I'm pretty sure they're on like a New York City taxi bus. But I just like to introduce the both of them. Thank you guys so much for coming.
All right, so I guess I'll go first. I'm Michael. We're introducing ourselves, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so my name is Michael Schimo. I'm 15. I go to the Waldorf School in Garden City. Yeah, so I also have a large TikTok platform that I use. A lot of it's political. I'm towards the left side in politics, so I'm very like pro-Biden and Democrat, and just try to spread my views through the platform that I've recently got. So yeah.
All right, great. Yessie?
Hello, my name is Jasenia Virgos, also known as Yessie. I am a Latinx second-generation Boricua woman, and I've been a part of WIVO since they actually started, so a founding member. And WIVO is a youth-led initiative. It's cross-partisan, and we encourage young folks to get excited about voting. So how we do this is by being issue-led, so allowing them to see what they care about and why they care about it, and then that will entail them to vote. And once you vote on the first few elections, you usually become a voter for life, and that's one of our goals. And I'm currently the social media director and facilitator for WIVO, so I'm excited to talk about what I do and how you can use your social media, like Nicolette was sharing with her organization. Thanks for having me.
Great. So both of them are, it's great to have both of them because they're talking about very present things right now, especially with Why Vote, getting out the vote, and stuff like that. And that kind of leads up to my first question. What would you say your strategy is on your platform?
Okay, I'll go. I would say my strategy is to I try to make my content, how do I explain this? Like my audience I try to get is, I would say young people who are just starting to vote or are going to vote soon. And I guess the way I grew my account was, not following trends, but kind of keeping up with the trends, and also being yourself, and yeah.
Yesenia?
Yeah, feel free to call me Yessie. So how do we come up with our original content? Like Michael was saying, we are authentic. We try to be very transparent on our social media about our message and how we are enabling the youth to actually do their research and be active on social media, because right now we're in this unprecedented time where we can't really go into spaces and do workshops. We can only do it online like we're doing now. So on WIVO's page, we have some quotes that we design on Canva, and we do some of our live sessions. We put them up so that people know what we're talking about and keep the conversation going. And we also do workshops as well, and we promote those. And yeah, we just try to promote going out to vote and having and making youth aware of what's going on, because a lot of youth are learning online. So if we can be that resource, we do be that resource. And we have our card code on our bio and our website that can be a resource. And I can share my screen if you want to see a little bit of that. But yeah.
Yeah, if we have time, we'll definitely try to share book screens to show what they do. And that's another question we had in the chat is, how do you guys create content? Like, do you guys research? Like, tell us about that.
I guess I'll go first. I get a lot of my new information from CNN and sometimes from TikTok if they're trusted sources. And I also try to post a lot so that, you know, I get a larger audience and more people see my content and get inspired to vote or switch to Democrat or etc.
Okay, yeah. Yessie, what about you?
Yeah, we definitely do the same. Like, we try to research exactly what we're trying to put out. So sometimes we plan our posts actually. So by doing this, we do our research, or we even ask our youth on when we do hold our forums, like, what do you want? What type of social media campaigns you want to do? And we go from there because we're very youth driven. And I'm still youth. I say youth driven, and I'm still a part of the youth. So yeah, trying to figure out what really grasps their attention. And I think that's very important because you can't post something without knowing exactly what the youth want to see, especially in the political side. Now we're having the conversation more, but continuing that conversation after the election is very important.
Yes, exactly. Super important. And you kind of alluded to this, but I wanted to generally ask, your target audience, like you guys said, is young people. So how do you personalize it to them? Like, are there any tips and tricks? How do you make sure that young people want to look at it?
I would say like humor. Sometimes you have to use humor, colors. Colors are very important, trying to appeal to the eye. And most people remember things with visuals. So trying not to put too much text in the actual post, because not everybody's going to read that. And keeping the caption as concise and clear as we can is very essential. Sometimes we do have a little long captions, but just because we wanted to make sure we get the point across and people are well informed. But definitely using colors, making sure you're staying relevant as well, because if you're not staying relevant, it's hard for people to be like, oh, let me go on YVote's page and see what they posted about this, and then they see something random and they might get confused and not think we're as reliable. But we continue to share content that is relevant to our mission and our vision.
I would say because my largest platform is TikTok. TikTok, most of the users tend to be younger people, so I think it's not really as big of an issue for me. And I would also say just keeping what you say like in your posts like very like short and very short and like so there's not a lot of text, and because people don't have long attention spans sometimes, so you just want to keep everything short, get your point across. So I would say.
Yeah, like making sure, like they said, make sure that it pops, it's relevant, it's easy to see, and it's funny, and that's really how you get your content to really show out. And that was my other question. How do you get it to spread? Like, do you guys have any tips? It's very, like we did, like how have you guys personally gotten your accounts to spread?
Well, for me, I would say, I think you have to post a lot. I think the more you post, the better, honestly. I would think that's a big one. And I'm not sure. Yeah, I would just say post a lot, talk about current issues, make it entertaining.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Michael. And posting is very important because your audience wants to see the consistency. And if they don't see you on your feed, they're not watching you. And so you have to make sure you're giving them that. And you want to give them hashtags if possible, since you're using Instagram. Also, like reposting other people's stuff is very important because then it shows that you're not only working alone, but you're collaborating with others, and that's what makes you credible. You want, at the end of the day, you want to be relevant and credible. If you're only doing stuff by yourself, like it won't seem as credible as if you're using other resources, or telling your audience that you're using other resources, because then they know that you do your research at the end of the day. So making sure you're sharing it on your story as well if it's a post, and using polls. I use a lot of polls on Instagram, and that really engages them to like be like yes, and then write those "I'm so upset about the debate" or something like that. Really using your platform to its entirety, because you have a lot of tools and you might as well use them. They're free.
Exactly. This is all about using the accessibility, like I said before, to your advantage, and to be a good advocate and to share important information. Another question I had was, because we are in these times, everything is digital. So what you guys already had before is just amplified. So how have you adapted to that? Is there any difference? Like, just explain how it's changed for you guys and what you do.
Yeah, definitely. At Wyville, we used to hold our forums in person, and now we don't do that. We do that on Zoom. So it's a different dynamic posting Zoom calls on our platform than it is just posting our workshops and what we did. So I definitely, to what you're saying, we're just amplifying it. We're checking those analytics and knowing what time our youth are on, and getting that time to put out whatever we want to put out, and being consistent and relevant again.
I would say that question isn't as relevant to me because I started really making content when quarantine started. So before quarantine started and before we were locked in our houses, I wasn't a content creator. So I don't really have a lot to say about that, to be honest.
I feel like that's what goes to show how much being online just amplified right now. Like, people can just become famous because of the pandemic, and they're staying at home, but they're also doing the right thing by sharing information, valuable information, to other people online. And another question I have while I'm opening it up to the chat is like, what is your messaging? I know messaging is pretty important. Like, just what is your messaging, and also what is the importance of messaging for people out there?
Can you say that again? I'm sorry.
I was saying, like, how do you promote your message? What is your message, and like, what's the importance of it? I know it's 3 questions, but that was what I had written.
I'd have to think about that. I'll let Lisa and you go first.
Okay, thanks, Michael. I think storytelling is what builds your social media, and I do presentations on social media, and that's the first thing I talk about. And what the storytelling really looks like, it really depends on you or the nonprofit or company or business you're working for. And it's about being concise again, making sure you are making a direct point. So people want to hear the issues you care about and the cause of your advocacy. So what do you care about? Like, what is it that you care about if you're using your platform personally? And as me, I use Wyville's platform to do this. What does Wyville care about? What is the point of Wyville? So using that youth-led initiative, mentioning we're cross-partisan, mentioning that we want to hear from everybody in the political spectrum and seeing their ideas and what they care about. And then also enabling your audience to identify what they care about, and that's very important. because if you should be sharing what you care about, but also getting that feedback back of what they care about, because then that'll help you with your content, help you to have more interactions online. Yeah, and just making sure the audience won't miss the point of what you had to say or your presentation.
Yeah. Did you come up with anything? It's okay if you didn't.
Yeah, I would say like my message is just, I think it's just to like empower people to like get out and vote and just become more involved in political issues. Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah, like I think that's really amazing if you want to empower people through social media, because it's a feedback, it's back and forth. You know, they feel more empowered and you're more empowered by virtue of that. So another question that we had from the chat is, how do you measure if you're successful? Which is a very interesting question.
You want to go ahead?
When you say successful, do you mean like in terms of social media, or you just mean in general?
I think that's up for the question. Like, what do you measure as successful in terms of what do you think it is, and like how much of it?
Well, I guess I would say like a number, like a falling number, well, it doesn't make you successful or not successful. I just think to be successful means to work your hardest and inspire people and work to your best potential.
Yeah, I love how you framed that, Michael. And it's really, you have to ask yourself or your nonprofit company, business, whatever it is, what does successful really look like? And sometimes it does look like how many interactions. Sometimes it does look like if you're getting your message across. And if what we do is look at analytics, but also we collaborate with other people, just like y'all. We know we're effective when people are asking us to collaborate. People are asking us to spread our message. People are asking us to be on taxi ads. People are asking us to be on the Wall Street Journal. And that's very important, because that means our message is coming through. Anybody can come to our platform and know our message. And that's how we really analyze if we were successful or not. If people are reaching out to us and wanting to learn more about our nonprofit.
Yeah, so it sounds like both presenters we've shown you are very mission-based. It's not just about how many people look at you, but what impact you make. And I think that's very important, especially with what we want to do with digital advocacy. And I think it inspires some people, because sometimes it can be really hard to be really big. And both you guys have done that, but you can also you don't have to be as big, but you could still inspire people and make them inspire them to do great things. Another question we had from the chat is, how do you handle people on your page that openly disagree? Do you think it's better to leave them be or engage? Which is very interesting.
I guess I'll go first, because I definitely get a lot of hate from people on my page. I would say, like, if these people that have different views as you are willing to have a conversation and not just, yell at you and curse at you and make insulting remarks, then yes, like it's good to engage with them and hear their viewpoint. But if they're just there if they disagree with you, you can never change their opinion, and they're never going to look at it any other way, and they're just going to be disrespectful, then I would say just leave them be and ignore them.
Yeah, I think this question is a little not for us, given that we're cross-partisan, so we allow any type of open disagreements, and that's a part of what we do. But we don't really get as much hate or anything, but we know since we're New York based, sometimes we have some of our youth that are conservative or whatever the case is, and we have to watch out and help them to navigate those means. But we never had an issue like that yet. But I think personally, it's important to engage with them if they're openly disagree. But if they're hating, you should just, like, if they're being a troll or something, you should not engage with them too much, given that that's what they want you to do, and it's just not time efficient or helping your content or your page. If it's not helping you, then I don't suggest you continuing that conversation, given that you have better, you could put forth more time into something else and efforts into something else.
All right, that was a great way to end off the presentation. I think it brought everything full circle, because we're talking about people who don't agree with you, and we're talking about our whole election and information on social media, and engaging with people who don't agree with you, and reminding you that if someone's open, totally talk to them and try to understand them. Like I said, you don't have to sacrifice your beliefs, but be open, and hopefully they'll be open. And really, that is our presentation. Remember, like I said, be super aware of the social media echo chamber. It's bad. It might not seem as bad if you don't think as extremely, but it's still something we should combat. And my challenge to you guys, it was last time, it was ask your family to register to vote. My challenge is text 5 family members and ask them if they've voted. Voting early is essential. I don't know if you guys saw, the lines have been crazy. I think there's like a 3-hour line nearest to me. You guys have to make sure your family votes early. You can do absentee. My family did in person. Obviously, absentee is a little bit easier, but just by the lines there, voting on election day is gonna be astronomical. Like, I honestly, like, people literally had like seats and chairs ready. Like, they had tents. It was crazy. So make sure you vote early, because another important thing is timing, because it is on a Tuesday, and if you have something to do, and if you realize the line is 3 hours long and you don't have time, then your voice might not be heard. You might not get your vote in. So go when you have time, when it's easiest. Take the challenge and text 5 family members and ask them if they have voted yet and if they're going to vote early. All right, that is it, and I need you guys to follow us on Instagram. Just say done in the chat, and then that is our presentation. Thank you so much for listening. This was a little bit different from This was a little bit different from our last one, but we thought it was really important because you guys have to know how to share your voice and how to be an information sharer, but also get the correct information. Yes, the Instagram was dropped. You guys know what to do.
We also have 2 calls, one on Wednesday and one next week.
Yes. Make sure you guys are ready. I'm going to tell you, on Wednesday we have from 7 to 8, we have an advocacy in government with 2 amazing presenters who have been doing work all over Long Island. And on Monday, the day before the election, this one's really important. It's about knowing your government, local government, state government, the judges on the ballot. And we're going to have a fantastic special guest, and you guys are not ready for this special guest. Like, we're gonna have an amazing special guest. That's why you have to be there. This person is like nationally known. Like, you guys have to be there. So sign up, and we're just gonna play you guys out. You guys can get ready to leave. I'm gonna leave you guys with one poll actually before you go, and is, after all that, and after you realize, you probably have, any of you guys, I just want to ask, have any of you guys realized that you saw a lot more fake news than you thought you did just by the presentation? I realized after learning this information, I have seen a lot more fake news than I thought I did. And I realized how bad it is and how detrimental it could be, because even if I don't fall for it, someone else would. And that is not good at all. So I see 50% of you guys have voted. AOC, not AOC. I think AOC is on the camp train trail, guys. Guys, I mean, not AOC, but someone who has done very, like, they've been around and they've done great things. But unfortunately, I'm not gonna ask AOC. I think she's too busy campaigning, and I think we're gonna leave her be. All right, 59% of you guys voted. Just vote, and then you guys can leave. I just want to see, and it looks like majority of people have said moderately often. But you know what? It doesn't hurt to ask, and it could be someone else who's very special. All right, so I'm just gonna release the poll and show you guys that nobody said almost never. Nobody said never, and that's really significant, and it just proves how much we do see this stuff and how much we got to fight it. So that's my message to you guys. Be your own activists, be the change. That's what being a democracy is all about. And advocate for people to go vote. Advocate, like I said, the challenge, and share your own information and spread your message and awareness. That's all I have to say. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Thanks for having us.